All right, so welcome to the last lecture, quote unquote lecture. Call it a lecture because we're not going to teach a whole bunch of things, but we'll actually um, look briefly at what's in the content of this unit, Unit 10. Speak about it for a few minutes. Um, and then Benoit and Sarat and me will speak about some things related to our research. Um, if anybody's time constrained and very busy and must do something else, then please don't spend your time here at this moment, because our purpose, frankly, is also to attract potentially some of you if you ever want to continue and pursue a higher degree with us or with some subset. That can be great. But okay, so let's start just by speaking about this unit 10 of the material. I think you can see it here. So there's a few links here that are of use, and the point is, at least from kind of a subjective point of view, is that even though we call the course a mathematical engineering of deep learning, uh, our field, we're mathematicians in one sense or another. We're in the Australian Mathematical Sciences Institute summer school. Um, Mathematics has not grabbed AI and deep learning fully, and a lot of it is due to trends such as the fact that data was available. So I recommend reading this blog post about the AlexNet 2012 ImageNet victory. So it was really a data revolution that happened. The mathematics was much earlier. I mean, maybe the people that should really be happy are Leibniz and Newton and Gauss. I mean, you saw that the math, at least for basic AI, is not too difficult. It's just involved. So that's kind of a view. Of course, there's a whole bunch of recent trends, and I recommend looking at what GPT-3 is. It's kind of a huge engine that's been trained this year. Um, and even a few months ago, there was potentially a breakthrough with something called protein folding. So image recognition and great CNNs are in a sense um, old news, and AI is moving into new directions. Um, so where to? Well, of course, we're seeing AI everywhere. You could see self-driving cars potentially working. Well, they're working in the nice city of is it Santa Fe, I think, or someplace in New Mexico, quite an easy to drive place. And we're seeing this more and more. But as you guys are young mathematicians, we're middle-aged mathematicians. Um, so I think you might want to, whenever you see people speaking about AI, politicians, scientists of sorts, people that don't really understand it, you might want to also kind of, after this course and knowledge that you had before, knowledge that you gain after, just put AI in the perspective of okay, I mean, this is a few mathematical methods that when you connect them together, you get some powerful things. So it is happening more and more, for example. So this is completely my viewpoint, what I'm saying here. So like a year and a half ago, I went to a teacher's workshop. So I'm personally involved a bit with secondary school education and primary school education. I kind of found interest in this and went to a teacher's workshop. It was Australian Mathematics Teachers Association conference, actually. So the Minister of Education of Queensland, of the state I'm in, Queensland, got up and spoke about the importance of AI, etc. But she was speaking to a bunch of high school teachers, and a lot, not all, but a lot of these high school teachers would not actually connect what they're teaching in grade 11 and grade 12 math, just derivatives and improving a gradient, to learning. Um, so then we started some project of trying to um, just educate teachers about, very vaguely, about what AI is, just by playing with the TensorFlow Playground. You've seen TensorFlow Playground, but the secondary school systems are still very slow to respond, because if it's not in the curriculum, it's potentially not interesting. Uh, but my point is, math and AI are kind of living together, and it's important for us as math ambassadors perhaps also to show that. Agriculture is also a great area where a lot of advances are happening. Yeah, so that's kind of this this perspective. Are there any thoughts or before we move on to the second part, where we'll actually just speak about a few research projects that we've been doing. But are there any thoughts in general? Feel free to share, as always, on this kind of broad forum of you know, there's deep learning, there's mathematics, there's statistical learning, there's machine learning, and there's this thing that people have branded as AI, which is a bit more fluid. But if there is one tool, it's probably deep learning in there. I'm looking, sorry, my chat is hidden. Yeah. Oh, so there's in the chat. Would you make a semantic distinction between AI and deep learning? Yeah, and there's I think I answered it, but or you think I might have answered. Yeah. So I mean, one can think of AI also as classic algorithms as well. So if you're using Google Maps to get from point A to point B, effectively what's solved on the graph is some shortest path problem in a very algorithmic way. You know, it's using Dijkstra's algorithm or Bellman-Ford or some variant thereof, right? But that coupled in a modern system would still be labeled AI. Deep learning is a much more narrow thing, which has become perhaps a subfield of machine learning. That's roughly where we stand. But it's really the method that kind of pushed things in the past decade. More thoughts? Okay, so let us tell you, we'll tell you a kind of personal question. Yeah, okay, so thanks for asking. So there's a personal question, where we studied and what majors we took, etc. And that's great. So I think we'll just spend a bit of time speaking about us, one after the other.
Yeah, that time we can mention.
Yeah, perfect. Benoit, would you like to start, or how do you feel about it?
Yeah.
Go
Good.
for it.
There is a question.
One more question. What are your thoughts on AI safety, near-term and long-term risks of AI? Just 1 second. I'm more steal this from you, Benoit, before you. So I do recommend, and I think now it's kind of one of those things that we just, whenever we teach such a course, we should actually spend just a bit of time on it. So if you haven't looked at this Vox video, please look at it, just because it kind of shows a lot of the negative personal impacts that come from GANs. 2 years ago, I would have dismissed it. I gave some public lecture in this science festival, Do Machines Think? And somebody asked me, and I said, oh, I don't care. I'm just a mathematician. But I think that we should be more and more responsible. I personally am still learning my path on how to do this properly. And you guys should probably think the same. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, I'll stop sharing, and Benoit, go for it. And we want to know about your past as well, that at least the students do. Tell us something about you.
Sorry?
The question about your past, what you studied. You were in badminton, was it not?
I study badminton now. I study mathematics. Huh?
Okay. Oh, okay. You could be personal, professional, but go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Yoni, for this introduction. Nice introduction. Okay. So I will just 10 minutes. Yoni, is it?
Yeah, even 15.
Okay, but you can ask some questions. So I just want to give some recent project I have done with specifically with a PhD student and master research, just to know which kind of area I'm interested on. I will share some slide here. I think it's okay. You tell me, because I don't see. I just have my tablet. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, can you see the slide here?
Yeah.
I will not present all the slide, just to give you some idea. So Aurélien is a PhD student who is doing a PhD in France when I was in France, and is in last year. And we have a nice project to do some automatic detection for storm impact, and specifically we have a specific study on the beach where I live is in Biarritz. So Biarritz, I wanted to show you a map. I hope Yoni will try to find a map because I lost my map.
Okay.
Biarritz is on the west coast, and so it's very exposed to the ocean, and we have some building and some habitation just very close to the ocean. And we work with the council to have an early warning system for storm impact. And we work also with mathematicians. We do some EDP, DP, in English, to model the waves. So mathematical model for the waves, but these models are quite long to run and time consuming. So our approach there, it was to use, we have some camera on the beach in Biarritz, and you can see the waves, and we can collect many data, and we are interested to classify the impact if we have submersion and so on. So the work is currently doing. We have a paper which is almost done. So it was just to give you an idea, and so maybe you can see.
And what share screen again? I shared the map on Biarritz and showed.
You share the screen? Who share the screen now?
No, I stole your share screen. I showed Biarritz on the border of the Basque Country near San Sebastian, the border of
Okay,
Spain,
good.
and now you can share back.
Okay, perfect. And we have also a study. It's good point, because we see that we will do transfer. We are doing transfer learning. The study we are doing in Biarritz, in the beach of Biarritz. We have also some study in Sarat, which is close to San Sebastian. We have the same issue for the submersion, and they also have some video during the night, so it's more challenging. So it's quite nice project too. So we have, what is the transfer learning. We have learned, because we have a lot of video image on Biarritz, and we transfer on the smaller database. Okay, you don't see my slide, is it?
Not yet.
Is okay? You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the main point here is just we do so is CNN, and we have 3 storm impact regime. Swatch. So swatch is like you see the red vertical line. So the red vertical line is the boundary. After is some habitation. So swatch is the waves don't arrive until the wall. Okay, impact, touch the wall, and overwash is submersion. So we have three storm impact, and we want to build a classifier. And why you want to build a classifier is because it's very time consuming, because if we have the video, but the human need each time to looking at the video and say, is a swatch impact overwash? So we want to have something automatically. So to build the neural network supervised method, my PhD just watch he labeled a lot of videos to run his model. So he just, now you're very familiar with this. So he built a kind of convolutional network like this, and he used also the transfer learning. So he used some previous architecture like VG16 and so on, and he compared this. So this is one of the projects we are doing, and the challenge also was the class imbalance, because we don't have a lot of impact. We have a lot of swatch, but not a lot of impact. So we need to also to deal with the class imbalance problem. And during the lecture, I think I give you some way to do this. So kind of oversampling, undersampling, and so on. So yes, so there are some good results, and so this is one of the projects. And this is the result on Biarritz, on the Biarritz image, and we compare. You are familiar on this, the F1 and so on. So this is one of the project, one project. I will show you another project. It's okay? Any question on this?
So when you showed the data, you showed these images.
Yes.
Were they over time? Was the vertical axis time there?
Yes. So there's a time. So yes, there's a. I don't remember exactly which time you take it because you have the video, so you need to take a specific time.
Okay.
It's a good question.
And there's a question, how many videos did your PhD student need to manually classify?
Oh. I told him, more you do, better is it. But and at one stage he was saying, oh my God, I cannot do anymore. Huh? And okay, after classification by hand, here, look, this is the number of images he did. So he managed to get 19,000 swatch, but he did in two steps. In fact, he used first a method from Otsu, which is segmentation, and after for this, he's doing in two steps. So he's quite clever. So he haven't done manually all, but and after he came back when you have some error to see which error are and so on. So this is a number.
Person in the loop approach.
Sorry?
It's like a person in the loop approach.
Yeah. So this is a number. Okay. Another question?
Just a comment on the chat. Poor student. But,
yes, poor student. But he's very motivated, he's always positive, and so on. And the good point is like is really go to the transfer learning, and our extension. In fact, when we started to build this course, and I show you. I think remember when we talk about transfer learning, we talk about a specific neural network when you do unsupervised transfer learning. So in fact, you have a database. It's like you are in. We want to give these tools to another place where they don't have any label data. But you remember on the course we did a neural network where they confuse the target and the what's the name? Oh, I don't remember the name. The source and the source. Remember this neural network which is confused with a classifier with reverse. Instead to minimize the loss function, we maximize the loss function. So we want to do, in fact, the extension is to use this kind of approach in this context. Okay. Okay, so this it was on the environment, all of this. And second example, okay, I'm going, still going. At one stage, you need to stop me, you know.
So there were questions before. How did you get into statistics in general, Benoit?
In statistics, I did, so my background, I did mathematics, applied mathematics, until a master's degree of research in applied mathematics. And it was not it was not applied enough for me. So I just did a second master in statistics, and I started a PhD in biostatistics. So always motivated at the beginning by biology study, and I was working in a public health environment, so with a medical doctor and so on. So I was a mathematician, and I developed the methods, but always motivated by the application. In fact, which drive my research is the application. And after, what I like is to develop new methods, which, because the traditional methods most of the time cannot deal with sophisticated data and so on. So this is our niche where we can contribute.
Thanks.
So I will present a second example in environment, and after I will present a last example more in bioinformatics, because I did bioinformatics for 10 years, 15 years now, with cancer data and so on. So this paper have been recently published in this journal, and maybe you recognize the author, maybe Kerry Mengersen. She gave a talk for AMSI. So we are co-author on this paper, and this work has been done by one of our postdoc, Javier Rodriguez Perez, which is from San Sebastian. And on this work, we use long short-term memory neural network, so recurrent neural network, for anomaly detection in water quality environment. So this is really what we have I presented very quickly with RNN and long short-term memory. We have this nice picture, you can see, fancy picture, and I can show you. It's good always to show some pictures. So this paper is available also online. If you want to see more, it's not technical because it's an appendix. So we have different location and different kind of, we have the turbidity, you can see conductivity, and we have this measure and we want to be able to detect some kind of anomaly. So the anomaly can come from the sensor or come from because there are a drift on the water quality. So it was also a supervised methods. So we compare different approach, and we show that the LSTM in this approach was quite doing pretty well. Yes, a short of this project. Any question? So this was for neural network, and the last one, because and you can see again Kerry Mengersen, but just wanted to tell you that I'm a statistician. Statistician also which use machine learning and so on. And I have my area also of expertise is a Bayesian approach. And this, we work with Bayesian meta-analysis. It was to detect a pleiotropic effect. So pleiotropic effect in genetics is when you have a variant in the DNA, which can affect multiple disease. So for example, we have some application here. We work with cancer, breast cancer data and thyroid cancer data. And our challenge was to detect some variant, so some SNPs, so in the DNA, which can affect both disease in the same time. So we use an approach with the Bayesian meta-analysis, work on summary statistics. So it was a very huge data set. And so for example, a picture what I can, okay, this is more mathematics. You can see the mathematics and so the Bayesian and all this. Published in Statistical Medicine, so it's also available. And a picture is also nice to see this. I have a picture. I know that I have a picture. Don't be sick. It's going fast. Okay. So just to be clear that on this x-axis is a chromosome, and on the chromosome you have some information of your genetic information, and when you have a dot very high, is meaning that it has been detected by both cancer at the same time if in our approaches. So this is quite at the end. And we have also, of course, we build in a Bayesian way, so we have a kind of uncertainty about our finding and so on. But what I want to tell you that I have a nice project in mind, and to build a joint neural network which communicates. So a neural network, for example, for the breast cancer, a neural network for thyroid cancer, but with share the weight, because we want to detect the features we can affect both diseases at the same time. So you can imagine that you have two neural networks we run in a parallel, but the weight need to be joined by a kind of penalty or of this. Okay, I will not tell you all because after you will do without me because you are clever. So this will be the nice nature paper. So be careful.
Nature. I hear it's a tough review process.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, Benoit, thanks.
Not too long.
No, perfect. So you're wearing cycling clothes, are you?
Okay, today big trouble. My bike was completely out, and we changed the inner cable, and we just finished 2 minutes ago. And I think it's not fixed, and I'm not at my place. I'm stuck.
Oh, I
So
see.
I have my tablet.
Okay, you're on the
Good.
road.
Yes, I'm on the road.
You're the man. Okay, merci beaucoup.
So I'm always very happy and enjoyed working with motivated student, positive student. So if you want to work at any area, and also if you have a project in mind, it's also good that some students have a project in mind. You can contact me.
Perfect.
On my Macquarie address, not on my university in Pau address. I can see that I receive some email from there sometimes, so I don't.
There's a nice question. What's the general status of statistical inference in deep learning? So far, there's not been much focused on inference. Thanks for this question. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's true. So a nice. We still have some work a little bit, but also you have understand that the difficulty, because when we are statistician, we want also machine learning people want prediction, like a black box. But in statistics, we want also most of the time understand the process and to have the interpretation, and mainly also in the biomedical, you want to interpret to understand which predictors is important and so on. So this is also an area which is very interesting, and we can go in this area is because you have seen when you put many layers, you lose completely the interpretation of your weight and which importance of the variable. There are some possible trick to do, but is a kind of research is the next few years.
Yeah, good
Next
stuff.
question.
And another question: are there any articles that deal with this? Do you have any recommendations? I can start by answering. So if you go to Unit 5, the interpretation of the convolutional layers, there are the classic articles at least, and there's a YouTube video on interpretable machine learning. That can be a starting point. Maybe Benoit can add.
Yeah, I know that for classifier, not for regression, but for classifier, there are the famous method, and there are package, but famous method detail is the LIME, LIME. And also, I've seen some paper which they use this also to interpret neural network. LIME, LIME, but we can put some paper if you want on the reference on our nice book down.
Is it French?
Not sure.
Where is he from?
Sorry?
Where is he from?
Where I'm from?
No, not you. The one you're referring to, the person, a professor. Line or?
No, LIME is the name of the package and
Okay,
on the
package.
method.
Okay.
Sorry, LIME. I will Google it now, just now.
Maybe somebody can find it and just toss it into the chat. Let's move on to Shard, and if somebody can find it, or okay, lime crocodile, lime versus lemon. All right, Shard, you want to go on?
Yeah.
You
Why
could
not?
share.
And by the way, I don't come from France, I come from England. I will my accent.
You're Basque, no?
Basque. Yes.
Yes.
He's
Okay, Shard.
yeah.
Come on. Do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
You can go for it.
Okay, I can start without sharing. Okay, maybe I should start with thanking you guys. It was a wonderful time. I enjoyed really teaching you guys, and I hope you had learned something from this course, particularly from my lecture. Okay. So regarding there was this question about how we got into where we are. I was an engineer. I did bachelor's in electronics and communication. So I was very much into communications, and then I said, okay, let's do masters in it, and I went ahead and did masters in telecommunication, where probability theory was extensively used. So that's where I actually started showing interest in probability theory. Then I went to work for some space agency. It's called Indian Space Research Organization. By the way, I'm from India. Probably you can guess it by now. Uh, so I worked for ISRO, and then I realized that's not my job, and I quit that job in 2 years and started doing my PhD. I wanted to learn probability theory at fundamental level. So I started working in applied probability theory. After my PhD, I moved to UQ here in 2017. Since then, I'm a postdoctorate here, and soon I'll be in Macquarie University. So, in conclusion, I come from applied probability background, and now slowly expanding my interest towards statistics as well as yeah, the machine learning in general.
I want to interrupt Sarat. He says he's coming to Macquarie University because Macquarie University is a place to be. Okay, that's it.
I can't deny that now. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so my research, my research actually, like most of my research has been on applied probability, addressing uh, something called perfect sampling and rare event simulation and estimation methods, so developing Monte Carlo simulation methods there, which finds application. Uh, the framework, mathematical framework is called spatial point process, which is very abstract. You have a say think of a chamber like a cube hanging in a space, and you have atoms inside, and they keep moving and interacting with each other. It's very easy to write these interactions, but when it comes to understanding its properties or generating these models, samples of these models on computer, these are very complex because the number is big. The number of particles in a glass chamber or in some space is big, so it's very difficult to uh, do estimation on these methods or generate samples of these models. I actually use applied probability concepts and develop algorithms and prove that they work, and why implement and show that they work. So now I'm focusing on uh, combining classical Monte Carlo simulation with parallel computing to enhance speed of the algorithms, which is not done in my view so far, because all the existing methods are sequential inherently. So even though these days we have a lot of resources, computational resources, we can't really take advantage of these resources directly without having a good algorithm. So that's one area I'm focusing on, and there are good publication in that line already. One is appearing in Journal of Applied Probability soon. Yeah, you can have a look at my profile. One is in Bernoulli Journal. Another research area is somewhat statistics based. I have worked on modeling cancer data, and that paper appeared in Nature a year ago. And we are doing further investigation on that, and there is some ongoing research in that direction. That's oh, that's one thing, and also work on Bayesian inference based estimation for, again, spatial point process. This is a new direction I'm taking up. That is ongoing work. You might not find any work in there online, which will come out soon. And these are very interesting problems over there. And Yoni will explain one of our collaboration work. It's called Say Blues. It's called Say Blues, and he will explain. It is a model we proposed in understanding how COVID-19 is spreading in population. And but I would like to talk about another machine learning related work. Maybe I can share the screen. Share. Oh, um, yeah. You can see the paper, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is somewhat related to what we learned in the last three lectures. There's something called multi-arm banded. Have anyone knows what is it? Is there anyone heard what is multi-arm banded? Yeah, Matthew knows it. Yes, that's interesting. So we looked at generalized and classical multi-arm banded problem. Essentially, you have say we looked at in the lecture one student engaging. We want to engage with one student. We want to come up with a good strategy. Instead of that, we have several students, and at any given time we can focus on only few of them. Say you have 1,000 students, and we want to discuss like a spend resources at any time, at most 100 of them. Then how do you allocate your resources efficiently or optimally? This problem, it becomes very complicated. In fact, it's called complexity. In computer literature, it's called NP hard. These problems are NP hard, particularly because if you remember, if you're not engaging with student, that students engagement level can go down. It is a random. Even though you're not monitoring, there is a state change in each student's engagement level. So that makes these problems difficult to handle, and the optimal solution can't be solved. There are approaches to handle it. At least asymptotically, we know what is the optimal solution. Asymptotic in the sense when number of students goes to infinite, as well as our number of choices goes to infinite, so that the ratio stays constant. In this paper, we actually used q learning, whatever we have seen, q learning algorithm to learn that indexing. In today's lecture, we had this theta, the parameter, to come up with a family of parametric family of functions. One of the families deep neural network, but you can have a linear family or polynomial, as we discussed here. Similarly, we have a parameter called lambda, that actually a parameter which is known as a Whittle index. So the Whittle index actually parameterizes the functions, and we want to learn that Whittle index. And how do we do that? We use again q learning method. I'm not going to details, but this has been like people started actually extending this method, and people started showing interest. And recently there is a progress in this direction. And yeah, so what is not done here is using deep learning ideas to actually do q learning for such problems. I think that's uh, one interesting area one can pursue, and maybe in future we can discuss about these things. If you are any of you are interested, that can be good direction to think about. And yeah, if you're interested, you can write to me, and we can talk about it. And you want to add anything about it? By the way, this is a collaboration work with Yoni, so he knows about this. And you can ask questions. Yeah, both of us we can ask. Thank you.
Thanks. So somebody said that sounds like multi-level marketing. Um, Perhaps in a sense. So this is not hierarchical, but it's just that you have multiple projects running together, and like was said above, your action is actually which subset of the projects you're going to work on. But there are immediate derivatives to this work that need to be done with deep reinforcement learning. So approximating the Q table by a neural network.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any further things for Shard before I take just a few minutes?
Thank you, guys.
Nobody's disputing about the Macquarie, the place to be.
Please.
Where is this university? Oh, it's in northern Sydney. Okay, no, I know. It's actually a very nice place. But so is here UQ, and that's where Shard still is. Let me just a few things. So I'll just speak about very briefly about a few things. So kind of like Shard, I'll just speak about my background briefly. So I grew up here in Israel, and then I kind of grew up in the United States, and then lived back in Israel, and then lived in Netherlands, and then in Victoria, and now here. So been around a bit. Okay, so that's enough with the map. And like Shard, I was working as an engineer for a few years, and then I went into a PhD. So I was in the aerospace, defense, telecom area, and then went into PhD. And indeed, I've been working in applied probability. So a lot of stochastic models of Qs, but also models of stochastic controls, such as this problem that Shard has shown you. Just one thing, I didn't bring this up, but I'll statistics with Julia Springer. So I am looking, if somebody's interested in, so this co-authored book with Hayden Clock, so it's not out yet, and Springer certainly overpriced this thing. But if somebody is interested in helping me proofread the proofs and then getting a copy, of course, you people are busy people. But if you actually want to seriously look at the proofs, hunt a few typos, and see something before publication, it'll be out in May. Drop me a line. So of course, book writing is kind of my potentially new hobby, and who knows, maybe with Benoit and Sarat, this thing we started in this course might become something. But let me just tell you very briefly about this project, which is in a sense different than other types of things I've been doing, but it became exciting. So back in March, when we were thinking that the world is going to be hit by a catastrophe, and indeed, unfortunately, it has been hit by a catastrophe. Just here in Australia, we're somehow avoiding it. We got together a few people, Sharat and Peter Taylor, that some of you might know in Melbourne, Shane Henderson from Cornell, and Marijn Jansen, and a few others, and then a few more joined. And we, like many mathematicians, May was actually March, April, May was a very interesting time for mathematicians and statisticians. We're all stuck at home, and we're feeling that we could save the world. A few of us really saved the world. I don't think that I could say we did it here, but at least we tried, or we did something. And same, by the way, for Benoit. Benoit was very heavily involved in a data analysis project dealing with medical data coming from ICUs. Now I see Benoit's put Julia down and R up. No problem, Benoit. It's fine. Did you write the code that and R? It's probably still running this thing, but that's okay. So anyway, so this project that we came up with, which actually became something, and we have now an experimental app, and we're going to have an experiment in the University of Auckland, the Safe Blues. Now, I spoke about this very, very briefly in the second lecture, perhaps, or maybe the first, and let me just explain the general idea. So the general idea is even before the general idea, I'll just show you something from a slide. So if we just look at pandemics, by the way, is anybody here doing the epidemics course that's running in parallel to us in the summer school? No? Okay. So there is also an epidemics course in summer school. So if we just look at kind of at fighting COVID, right, and kind of epidemics, and look, 100 years ago, there was a Spanish flu. Everybody knows about this, right? And now we have this other pandemic that we're suffering through. And about 10 years after the Spanish flu, you had SIR models, susceptible, infected, recovered. Differential equation models, quite simple, but they kind of capture the thing that's happening, right? And then 1955 perceptron till around today, you've got computational statistics, machine learning, data science, AI, then you've got smart mobile devices. And let's look at these technologies as how they're battling COVID, or at least used to. So of course, the 1920s, 1930s models are certainly used for fighting COVID. The mobile apps are also, or at least there was belief before with contact tracing apps, etc. But it'll still probably be useful as we get into the second phase of the disease worldwide, when things are kind of in contact tracing way. Mobile devices technologically are used. But there's a question, has computational statistics, and I'm not talking about classical statistics used in medical statistics, as Benoit was speaking about, but large scale AI, has that been really used so far, or kind of has made its mark on the fight against COVID? And many can argue that perhaps no. And one of the reasons that no is maybe there's just the data is noisy. There's some, things are continuously transient. The situations are changing, etc. There hasn't been this great success story. AI saves the world from COVID. Okay. So in general, the Safe Blues kind of tries to actually use all three ideas. So classical modeling, computational statistics, machine learning, data science, deep learning, and smart mobile devices. And this is very roughly how the ideas of this is how Safe Blues works. So in addition to spreading the actual disease, we can also spread via cellular devices mock viruses. These are not viruses in the sense they run, but just tokens that kind of count, hey, I was next to you, let's spread a disease. I was next to you, let's spread a disease. Okay, let's spread a virtual token. So we're counting these virtual tokens, these safe blue strands, these viruses, and we're spreading many, many, many of them with many variants of them. Okay. And the underlying population dynamics are still the same. I'm here next to Sarat. If he has something biological, he'll give it to me. I might give it to him, etc. Okay. Our devices will also do that. Okay. Now, this is not about tracking individual people, but actually about then finding correlations between, let me maybe bring up this main picture here, finding correlations between the actual epidemic. So here, if you take this figure on the left, what we call model 1. So as time progresses, you've got the actual epidemic. That's this thing with green and with red. That's the actual epidemic. And these blue things are safe blue strands. Now, what's happening in this picture is you've got some epidemic happening, and then you have some non-pharmaceutical intervention. You've got a lockdown. So then people start seeing each other less. The epidemic starts to die, but the safe blue strands also start to die in a very noisy manner. But they also start to die. And what we can do then is, at some point in the future, we could predict, based on the safe blue strands that were observed previously, that's what we learned in the current safe blue strands, what the state of the epidemic is. That's kind of the main idea in a nutshell. It's a quite simple idea. It's let's use virtual safe, that's the name of this article. It was now accepted to patterns, CellPress patterns will appear. So let's do virtual safe virus spread. And by looking at how these virtual safe viruses, not everybody has to have them. You can only have maybe only 5% or 2% of the population runs these on their apps. Where then we can relate that to the actual epidemic. One of the nice things in this paper is that a person that joined on early on, Chris Rakokas, he was kind of and he is the right person for the right project, and he was a scientific machine learning expert of the project. So if somebody's still looking for a paper for their final for their final project and you still haven't looked at it, or anyway, even if you're not, I suggest looking at this paper, Universal Differential Equations, Scientific Machine Learning by Chris Rokakos. So he worked on Safe Lose with us and still has. So one of the nice ideas there is that the type of model which we fit is a dynamic differential equation model, but we learn some of the terms of those models via a deep neural network. Okay, so that's part of the things that's being done. So you can kind of, with a differential equation model, you can model like an applied mathematician from first principles. You know, what's happening, you have S times I, that's the law of mass action that kind of creates infection. But then you can add another term that's learned via differential equations. That's probably all the time I have to speak about this and all the time we have in general. Just before we close, any specific questions for me or about this? Oh, and I see there was a response there up there. The Julia code is still compiling. That's cute. That's true. Julia is not responsive. Okay, I think we've tired you guys out, and some of you have a quiz tomorrow, so I hope you can be quite focused for what's in the quiz tomorrow. Make sure to also keep in mind that we do have, for those of you that are handing in projects, so of course you have your checkpoint done due in a few days, Monday, that's not far. Keep in mind that we have these other consultation hours. And we suggest that you also, so in the next 2 weeks, right? So there's going to be like a consultation hour here, at least in February 10th and February 12th. But you feel free to also drop us a line via email if you need something specific before these hours, specifically for those projects. And yeah, thanks a lot for taking all the time for this course.
Thank you, everyone. If they want to speak, or we have 10 more minutes.
Oh, no, I think we close. Okay, well, thanks for your attention. Hard to be at home or elsewhere and listening. Do we have more hints for the quiz? No, but basically, as we suggested, you've focused on a few things. All right, take care, everybody. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.